Good morning. Let's see. Good morning. Good, right? Okay. It's a beautiful weather outside. Well, it's getting colder each day, unfortunately. Monday was the best day. So Friday and down forward, it's going to be, colder every day. Anyways, good morning, everyone. 8 seasons and 5 days ago, our forefathers gathered on this very hallowed ground to ponder the future of the artificial intelligence. The founding minds of the Society of North American Scholars didn't have ChatGPT to polish their prose, but they had something timeless: imagination, conviction, and the courage to turn thought into transformation. And here we stand today at the 4th Interdisciplinary Society of North American Scholars Conference, continuing the same tradition of inquiry and collaboration. We told you we would be your second conference that you would never want to miss. And judging by the spark in this room, it seems we were right on the mark. We are thrilled to return to Fairleigh Dickinson University, our intellectual home away from home. A heartfelt thanks to the university's leadership for once again opening their doors, championing the academic exchange, and nurturing a community that believes in the power of ideas. Your partnership doesn't just make this event possible, it makes it purposeful, powerful, and quite frankly, pretty meaningful. Now, let's get serious. From early humans deciphering the stars to modern science, the drive to understand the world has been relentless in its defiance. Humans seek purpose, beauty, and the transcendence in their schemes. We made the wheel to roll, the engine to soar, the circuit to reason, the code to explore. Indeed, first came the wheel, followed by the steam engine's might, then came the internet, and now AI is taking flight. Today, data-driven technologies have become the heartbeat of our civilization. From personalized medicine to precision fields of grain, from smart homes that learn our habits to analytics that foresee our strain. We live in a world where data knows us better than our relatives do. Technology, in many ways, has become humanity's greatest mirror. It reflects both our brilliance and our flaws. It helps us heal faster, communicate better, and even predict the weather. But somehow we can master AI while losing our own tether. Of course, technology has also handed us a few features we didn't choose, like algorithmic bias, privacy concerns, and that creepy thrill when your phone reads your cues. It is as if our own creations are peeking over our backs, showing that the tools we make can twist and turn in ways we never planned or tracked. This year's theme, exploring the impact of data-driven technologies on human development, couldn't be more timely. It invites us not only to ask what technology can do, but what it should do. It is about finding balance between innovation and ethics, efficiency and empathy, and data and dignity. During this conference, I invite you not only to celebrate technology's achievements, but to understand its impact on the human condition, how it reshapes our values, our learning, our identities, and our communities. At the Society of North American Scholars, we believe that no single discipline holds all the answers. That is why we are not a discipline-based academy, we are a knowledge-based society. We bring together engineers and educators, psychologists and philosophers, scientists and storytellers, each offering a different angle on the same big question: how do we make knowledge humane? Because while specialized research dives deep, it sometimes forgets to look around. We are here to widen that view to turn the microscope into a kaleidoscope and see the full spectrum of human understanding. Thus, we want to see the problem not just through one lens, but through the full spectrum of human understanding. Over the years, Society of North American Scholars has grown not only as an academic platform, but also a community of collaboration. Through our annual conferences, workshops, and online forums, we have connected faculty, researchers, and students from across North America and beyond. We are also deeply committed to supporting students, from high school scholars to undergraduates to graduate researchers. We take pride in giving emerging minds a platform to present, connect, and grow. These conferences aren't just academic gatherings, they are launching pads for future innovators, educators, and leaders. We believe that nurturing this new generation of thinkers is one of our greatest contributions to the scientific community. So if you haven't already, we invite you to join the Society of North American Scholars, not just as a member, but as a collaborator in our shared mission to expand the frontiers of interdisciplinary knowledge. Whether your passion is data science, philosophy, sociology, or robotics, there is a seat for you at our table and hopefully a plug for your laptop. Together, we can continue to build bridges between disciplines, between theory and practice, and most importantly, between data and humanity. As we begin this exciting conference, I encourage you to challenge ideas, questions, assumptions, and engage in conversations that matter. Attend sessions outside your field. Meet someone new. Share your research, your insights, and maybe even your academic struggles. Because let's face it, those are the stories we all relate to the most. On behalf of the entire organizing committee, led by Dr. Ömer Topaloğlu, thank you for your curiosity, your scholarship, and your commitment to knowledge without borders. Thank you once again to Fairleigh Dickinson University, to our distinguished speakers, panelists, and the student participants. Let's make this conference not just a meeting of minds, but a celebration of how far we have come and how much more we can achieve together. Welcome once again to the 4th Interdisciplinary Society of North American Scholars. Now, I would like to welcome James Almeida, the Dean of Civil Liberal College, to the podium for his opening remarks. If you just stand a little bit further. Sure.
So good morning. I know we have not had the caffeine flowing through our veins yet, but hopefully maybe in half an hour, 45 minutes, we'll get that going, right? Folks, it's truly my pleasure to invite you to this beautiful campus. And what about a shout out to our organizers for this delightful weather, right? It's all their responsibility. In addition to the setup, the weather is also there. So this is a perfect setting for this conference, especially given the theme. Because I don't know how many of you are familiar with the history of this institution, but this used to be the grand ballroom for the Vanderbilts when they would host summer parties. Okay, remember, folks, this was just the summer home. And I don't know if any of you have seen that. I think it was a series on, I forget now which network it was, but the people who built America, right? And one of those folks who was highlighted there was, of course, Cornelius Vanderbilt. And his contribution to this great country was the development of railroads, right? So when you think back into the mid 1800s and all of the changes that were going on, the development of railroads was one of the most significant factors that contributed to the growth of this country, right? And then, of course, you had the steel, and you had oil, and you had finance with J.P. Morgan. But Vanderbilt was one of those individuals who contributed to laying the foundation for this growth that this country has experienced. And so I thought that this setting is perfect for the conference that we have today, right? Where we are looking at, this technology and humanity concepts as we look at data-driven technologies that shape the trajectories of human development. And we come as scholars, right, from different disciplines. No one particular discipline can own rights to say, well, we have all the answers. And so this society, which, as the president shared earlier, welcomes individuals from very diverse backgrounds, is the perfect kind of conversation that you want to be able to engage. And through the rest of the day, I was just looking up the agenda that Dr. Topologlu shared with me earlier. And it was fascinating to be looking at the topics, right, that you are going to be talking about today, ranging from engineering the future to data-enabled systems thinking, from exploring the use of AI in higher education, a topic that is particularly of interest to me and should be to all of us, I guess, to how AI can be used to bridge educational gaps in diverse communities, from understanding how AI can impact complex fraud cases to adopting data-driven insights to better understand how celebrities can influence nonprofits. And I say that because one of my colleagues is going to be talking about that later on today. And folks, along this journey today, we will also hear from our keynote speaker who will share her insights on how human leadership is, in fact, much more important today in an era of, when you talk about machine learning, deep learning, and dare I say, even perhaps we see it in our lifetime, singularity. But even with all of this technology change that is occurring, the human is not going to be disappearing. So our keynote speaker today, Dr. Micheline Nader, is going to be sharing some of her insights, and I'm truly looking forward to that. But as we get together this morning for the rest of our conversations later on in a few minutes and extending into the afternoon, I leave you with three themes, so to speak, as to how data-driven technologies can shape our development. First and foremost, of course, is the promise of the change that this provides us with, right? So in terms of its scale, in terms of the reach, and of course, also the potential. So just, and again, it's not my intention to throw some statistics at you, but just consider this, right? When you think about, the number of people in the world and what proportion of that population, for instance, about 67%, about 5.5 billion people around the world use the internet, which is, of course, very impressive, right, on one hand. But think about the flip side. So if I have my math right, which is some 8 billion people, right? And I know I'm standing in front of mathematicians, so I should be careful about doing math on the fly. But something like about 2.5 to 3 billion people are without using the internet. So when we talk about the digital divide, right? It's easy for us to focus on the number of people who have access to this technology, but what is our obligation as educators for those who do not? Okay, and this digital divide is much more stark, for instance, when you look at the developing countries versus the non-developing countries, right? So, for instance, about 93% of people in higher income countries, okay, we can debate how it is defined, but let's use the general principles, have access to online information. Whereas in low-income countries, barely a quarter of the population has. So again, what implications does that have for us? Consider this in terms of funding, okay, AI just this past year, 2024, okay, in the US, almost $110 billion. And this year, it's going to be likely even doubling that, invested in the development of AI. Think about what is the next largest investment in terms of a country. It's China, and it's not even a tenth of what is being invested in the US. China comes in as last year about just under $10 billion, and the UK is somewhere around half of that. Okay, so with that kind of a scale of development, there are also implications that not all of that is necessarily always good, right? So almost 78% of organizations have reported using AI and some problems associated with that. So clearly, this shows to us that a tremendous transformation is underway, okay? And that is going to be affecting our health, our education, our governance, and in fact, our livelihoods, right? So of course, clearly the reach is global and the stakes are high. But with all of this development, right, there is some things that we cannot ignore either. The notion of inequality. Okay, what are our obligations? The notion that a significant proportion of the population are still being excluded from these development. So when we talk about societal development, okay, what happens to those who cannot participate in this development? And of course, certainly in terms of the bias that sometimes these technologies can introduce. So given the fact that almost half the population of the world lacks global high-speed internet access, and most of our access is contingent upon providing, that the user will have access to some broadband technologies. If half of those population around the world do not have, what are the implications of that? Okay, and we consider the US as one of the more developed countries in the world. And even in a population of about 350 million people in this country, okay, almost 25 million people do not have access to the internet, even in this country. So when we gather together, right, what are the implications of these things? A recent McKinsey survey suggested that almost half of the organizations experience at least one negative consequence of generative AI. Okay, and this relates to either something was inaccurate, something was there were some IP challenges, right? When we talk about inaccuracies with AI, I'm sure many of us or all of us are familiar with the notion of hallucination, that the systems hallucinate, right? So what implication does it have if we are going to be using information that ChatGPT or Cloud or LLMs give us as being the gospel? Okay, so again, while technology holds its promise, the risks associated with this is something significant. And again, what are our responsibilities as educators to be able to address this? And finally, the choices related to governance, okay, and interdisciplinary engagement. This is why I said that this particular conference setting is a perfect approach, because you are gathering together scholars that bring different perspectives to the table, right? As educators, especially higher education educators, right? We are developing the next generation of leaders. We are equipping them with skill sets. They are going to be going out there in the world where the landscape is evolving and it's going to be transformed. The notion of work and the nature of work is going to be transformed. And so we are preparing these individuals for that kind of a landscape. And we are expecting them to be the leaders, to be able to lead us forward. So what are our obligations as educators to be able to inform those conversations, those skills that we want these graduates to develop when they leave us in 4 years, 2 years, or 3 years, depending upon the program that they are engaged in. But it's our responsibility, folks, is not just on these graduates, but also on society. So when Omar shared with me what this particular theme of the conference was for this year, I was truly encouraged because, in a way, this is our efforts, Silverman College of Business, Fairleigh Dickinson University's efforts to contribute, to support these much needed conversations where we bring people from a whole host of different disciplines to the table, to the conversation, with a view to understanding that we don't have all the answers. And perhaps we may never ever get to a position of having all the answers. But having these conversations, sharing our understanding, perhaps we will be able to come up with solutions to some of the more pressing challenges that we are facing today as a society. So again, I welcome you to our beautiful campus. I'm truly glad and delighted that you joined us this morning. I know some of you have joined us for the second time. This is the second opportunity, and we are looking forward to continuing the great work that this collection of scholars is engaging with, and thank you for all of your support.